I submitted this in an area I had never been to before. And sitting there looking around, I said, there has to be something else in this area. And this screenshot right here is when I came back to start nominating. I did a 360 view. I'm standing right near where I nominated that Pokestop. Across the street is an outdoor strip mall, and nothing else is around. There's a couple things in apartments, but that's it. So here I am, the first thing that I went to a couple days later. It's a Greek restaurant, and I'm going into settings. I'm going into upload, new Pokestop. It's in the right place. I don't have to zoom anywhere. But then I'll give you a hint about restaurants. I walked in the door. There was nobody there. I immediately took a point of interest picture and an overview picture. Then you can choose existing photograph when you're nominating. So here we are. I chose existing photograph. It's the map, very centralized. Then I chose existing photo for the overview shot. And here it is. It shows the seating in the restaurant. It shows close to the front door. And then I have to give it a title. So, I mean, it's pretty darn simple. It's a map of Greece. So that's what I called it. And then the description, I'm just going to cut ahead here and show you what I put in for the description. And then the categories. It's art. I mean, it's pretty simple art, but it's art. So I go into the art category, I choose drawing. I go into the art category again and choose mural. And then I kind of scrolled through the list just to see if anything else would qualify. And then I realized, well, I'm in a Greek restaurant, and I'm pretty sure restaurant is in there. And I found it, Greek restaurant. So I chose that. I'll kind of go at it as a privately owned business angle as well. The next section, you have to convince the people that are viewing this nomination that it qualifies. So mine says art and murals in public places qualifies. This mural is in a privately owned and very popular fast food Greek restaurant. The POI is by the front door. All right. So I do that. I do submit. And it's submitted. And then I went back into Niantic Wayfarer, and there it is. And then there is my overview shot with my description. All right, the next one, there happens to be a decorative fountain at the entrance of an office building. It was just to the west of where I was. So then I go into the Pokeball, I go into settings, I go into uploads, I go into new Pokestop, and then there it is. I'm going to zoom in just to make sure it's in the right place. There it is. I'm standing right next to it. And then confirm. And then it asks me to take a photo. This one I didn't take in advance. I walked over there. I got a good centered shot on the water fountain. You want to make sure that you can see the water coming down. If the water fountain is turned off, it's going to get rejected. Make sure the water is actively flowing. And then I like to wait a couple seconds just to make sure it doesn't crash. I've had issues with this. And then press the check mark. There it is. There is my overview shot, nice and centered. Then I'm going to take another photo. This one you want to show that it's pedestrian friendly and that it is safe. That is the whole goal. You also want to show that it is in the real world where you say it is. So I'm relating it to the parking lot there. And then the title, I'm just going to keep it simple because it definitely qualifies. I don't have to oversell it. I'm just calling it Entry Fountain. And then okay. Then the description, because it qualifies, it really doesn't have to be that special. I just said relax in front of the entry fountain at the entrance of an office building. I kind of struggled with what to say there. I was kind of looking for a name to put in there. All right, and then decorative fountain is definitely in there, so I put that in there. And then I just briefly scrolled through the list to see if anything else qualified. I ended up choosing water fountain and decorative fountain. There it is, nice and centered. And then I confirmed it. And then I have to put in the supporting information. I just say decorative fountains in public places qualify. It definitely qualifies. You don't need to do a lot with it. And then, okay. And there it is in Niantic Wayfarer, my nomination, and my overview shot. The next one I had seen in imagery. It was like a old age home, assisted living home, but I got there and it was actually closed. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to nominate this. It was a Ramada. Right here, I zoom in. I can barely make out the Ramada there, but I finally find it. Put it on the corner there. And then take a photo. And normally I cut out all this walking, but I left it in there to show you that I put my phone inside the gate. You do not want the gate in the photograph. So I zoom in, I make sure it's centered, I take the picture, and then again I wait a few seconds, and then I press yes. But I noticed it was kind of really bright in the corner. I wasn't happy with that photograph, so I decided to walk to another place a little further back and take it again. Again, I put my camera through the gate so you couldn't see the gate. If people see the gate, they're less likely to approve it. So remember that. This one looked a lot better. It didn't have that sun in the corner, so I decided to keep it. Then I'm going to take another photo. This is the overview shot. Again, you want to show that it has pedestrian access. You want to show how it relates to the real world. And again, in this case, I don't want to put that gate in there. So I walked a lot farther back here. I went over to the gate and I put my phone through the gate again. Here you can see the sidewalk. You can see how it relates to the real world. It has pedestrian access. It's friendly. It's a good nomination. As for title, I just said Courtyard Ramada. I kept it simple. And then the description, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. I put in there that they were socializing with friends and neighbors, put the name of the facility even though it's closed. And then I went to the categories. I chose gazebo and looked through again to see if I could find something else. I considered garden. It didn't really work. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything because it's always good to have multiple categories. And then I thought, what the heck, I'll call it a park as well, just to make sure I had 3 of them in there. There we go. Looking pretty good. I confirm it. And then I have to justify it. And I said, great shaded area to socialize. I want to make sure socialization is in there. That's important. I said it a couple times. And then I'm going to say, okay. And then here it is in Niantic Wayfarer. And here is my overview shot. This next one is interesting. I'm looking southeast. I'm standing at an arch over an entrance to an office building. And I passed on that southeast corner another one that was very similar. And so I went in to nominate this, and I'm like, I wonder if it's in two different cells. So I decided to go to pogomap.info. You can turn on the S17 cells. I saw they were in different ones. I thought, heck, I'm going to try it. I'm going to nominate both of them. When I was doing this, I realized it wasn't a great place to be social or explore or to exercise. This would definitely have gotten in the old system, but I decided to try it. I didn't know what would happen. I took an elongated photo to make sure I got the whole entry arch. And then I made sure the overview shots showed the sidewalk. It wasn't much different from the original photograph. And then for name, I called it the Northwest Entry Arch. And then OK. And then I said architectural arch at the entrance in an office building. And then I chose arch, and there is an arch there. Again, I looked through the list to make sure I'm not missing anything. And I said office. Heck, why not? And then confirm. And then I kind of was grasping at straws here. I said that it was worth exploring. But is an entry arch to an office building really worth exploring? I don't know. But by the next day, it was almost instantly denied. This was a Niantic denial. So it didn't even get to the voting system. This is what was in Niantic Wayfarer. All right, then I went around the corner to the other side, back where I had driven before, and I nominated the other arch. It's right here. And then I had to take a photo. And again, I did it to the side to make it more elongated. It's right in the center. And I gave it a few seconds just to make sure. And then I pressed OK or the check mark. All right, then it wanted an overview shot. So I walked back a little bit, stood in the parking lot, and took an overview shot. And then OK. And then next, then I had to name it something completely different. And for some reason, I decided to put architectural in the header. So instead of just calling it arch, I called it Southeast Architectural Arch. And then under the supporting information, I just said it was an architectural feature at a building entry. Again, I'm grasping for straws. I really don't think this fits into the new system, but it's in the game everywhere. So why not try it, right? Looked up the categories. I did arch. I did iconic architecture, which I didn't do the last time. I didn't do iconic architecture. And then my description, interesting architecture is worth exploring. The arch welcomes visitors. Now the interesting thing about this did not get instantly rejected. And I did put architectural in the title, and I also used iconic architecture. That may be why it wasn't instantly rejected. All right, the next two, unfortunately the videos didn't work. There was a sketchy rest area in their parking lot. I nominated that. I also nominated this flag tribute. It was at the Best Western Corporate Center, which is where my video was from the other day. Here it is. This is the same footage that I used. And I went in to do a plaque nomination, and I discovered it said there were already points in a Niantic game, but there was nothing in Pokemon Go. So I did kind of zoom out to see if the flags had already been nominated. It was over there to the right of this one. It was to the right of this one, and it wasn't in there. So I'm going to keep it in. If it gets approved, they'll probably have it removed. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting. This next one is easy acceptance. I saw this when I was driving by the other day. It's in that mall area. It's a local chain of restaurants that they put an elk statue out front. I noticed in the imagery that the restaurant wasn't finished yet, so I took that into account. I started having trouble with time of day. It was near around 4:30 and the sun was starting to set. I was really having a hard time getting a good quality photograph just because the sun was setting behind it and it was in the shade. So this was my first one. There was a woman walking around outside. I was trying to make sure she wasn't in the photograph. I pressed the check mark, and unfortunately it cut off the antlers. So I wanted to take the photograph again. But by moving it out, then I got their sign in the way. So I just had to do it, hoping when it becomes a circle that will get cut off. The next photograph, I still cut off the antlers, so I had to move back a little bit and take a much wider shot of the elk statue. I press the middle of my screen there because when I do that, it corrects the light in the photograph. Now I need to take an overview shot. I want to show that it's safe and publicly accessible. So I'm just going to walk back a couple steps here. There was somebody getting into a car. I don't know what they thought of me. But anyway, so I moved out. I'm showing the parking lot, the business, and the statue. And then knowing this is at least the third one of these in our town, so I called it Twin Peaks Elk and then decided to put a clarifier on there. So I named it Deer Valley or DV, which is the area that it's in. And then in the description, I just put it was an elk statue outside the restaurant. And then there's already a statue in the categories, so I chose that. And then that was it. I just put the one category. And confirm. All right, the description's pretty easy because it's an easy nomination. So I just talk about art in public places. I mention the imagery and it being built and to look for the two roofline. And then that's it. And here it is in the Antique Wayfarer. That's my nomination. That's my overview shot. In that same shopping center, when I was there a couple days earlier, I saw this and knew I needed to change it. Pokemon Battle Arena. I don't even know how it got in game. I don't know how it has lasted this long, but I definitely wanted to change it. All right, so you go into the right arrow there, and then you do the right arrow again, and then it lets you pick 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner. You can choose what you want to edit. I wanted to edit the name. And for clarification, you're not supposed to have anything game-related in anything that's going to be in the game. So you don't want anything with Pokemon, Trainer. I see so many things with Ingress and XM and Portal and all these kind of things. You're not allowed to have any of that. So I just decided to call it Grand Cinema Entry, even though I don't even know why this is in the game. It would not qualify today. Let's just put it that way. The last one I did was this Ramada that said it was a great place for trainers to get together. So I wanted to change the description. So again, I hit the right arrow on the right, and that took me to 3 dots in the upper right. And in this case, I wanted to change the description. It'll give you whatever description is there now. And so I just decided to make it a lot simpler. I couldn't believe that even Team Rocket was in the description, and nobody had tried to change it yet. I said Ramada, that is great for parties and socializing. You want to stress socializing, and then submit. You all wanted a longer video showing nominations. I'm going to see how this type of video does because it takes me a really long time to edit. I hope you like it. Let me know in the comments.